What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about SPY and break down what's going on with the charts right now, and also what's happening with the market right now as Meta just reported earnings. I do apologize if there's any background noise or if it's a little hard to hear me because of the audio quality. I really apologize for that, guys. I had a family emergency, so I'm forced to record this video from a laptop in a library in a small room. But anyways, I want to just start off by saying I'm not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 5 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is, any could be a free Tesla share, a free Neo share, or a mix of all of them. The offer ends in just 4 days. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So when it comes to SPY, guys, this thing continued to actually remain weak. I was actually hoping we would try to get a bounce. We did try to bounce at the beginning, then we just ended up failing again. And now we're basically forming this falling wedge-like pattern, and SPY is actually trying to bounce from here. The question is, could we actually break out of this? If we can, that would be a good sign. If we fail and we just reject like right here, then that's once again not going to be a good sign. But going forward, when it comes to Meta, I just want to break this down for you. Meta basically ended up reporting their earnings. They're actually popping on earnings, but it was a very mixed report. I mean, their overall income ratios are not necessarily the best. Their net income and margins have dropped, but they did beat on EPS and revenue and other daily active users data and things like that. So it's responding quite positively to that. For tomorrow, we also have the GDP numbers coming out and initial jobless claims numbers. Once again, very, very important stuff before the market opens. That's going to be very important. For Thursday, we have Amazon and Intel. This is when they're going to be reporting earnings. And on top of that, for Friday, we're going to see a big reaction to these. But besides all of that, guys, we're going to basically react a lot to the data and also based off what the technicals are going to be causing, right? Because now the algos are shifting in a more bearish stance. So the question is, what's likely going to happen? Now, we do have a possible bullish divergence on SPY right here. It's made a lower low, but the RSI is making a higher low. And we are going to try to bounce. There's going to be an attempt to bounce right here. But the question is, could we keep going or are we about to reject and crash? It really depends on the data. I can't really predict what initial jobless claims the GDP numbers are going to cause. But I do believe when you zoom out, we have this falling wedge-like pattern, right? Back and forth, we keep on falling. So what I'm thinking is this is what's likely going to happen. We're going to bounce and retest 405, most likely tomorrow. And maybe the market pops a little bit thanks to Meta's earnings. But remember, we did end up dropping on SPY even after Microsoft reported some very good earnings. And as a result of this, I just want to note that this is very interesting because strong earnings or like a big company reporting earnings does not guarantee, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that the stock market will continue to push. So, in my opinion, we're likely going to get a bounce, but there's no guarantee we're going to break out. We could reject off this resistance around this 405 area and just remain choppy from there. We're most likely going to see the big reaction very soon. Now, tomorrow, we're going to react to the data and all the information. So I don't know if we're going to break out or not, but I do believe it's going to be a very big test to come. It could go either way, but so far, when you look at the daily on SPY, there's no clear sign of a balance. It still looks more in favor of the bears. On the weekly, it also looks more bearish because we have confirmation that this doji was more of a reversal candle and it's just continuing to drop. The weekly chart does not look too good. We have dropped quite a bit and the RSI is very oversold. So I would be looking for a potential bounce. I'm really hoping for it. And we'll just have to wait and see if that could actually happen. Now, what I'm thinking once again is a retest of this upper trend line, the top of this falling wedge trend line. If it breaks out of it, that would be a good sign. If it fails, then it is what it is. We'll just have to wait and see. For Tesla, it does not look too good. Tesla has a similar falling wedge-like pattern, but as you can see, Tesla's continuing to just downtrend and downtrend. And looking out, let me just hide my drawings real quick. When we look at Tesla, it's actually retesting this 153 area, and this is actually starting to fill the gap down here into the 140s. So could Tesla bounce thanks to like some good data tomorrow? Maybe initial jobless claims are good, and also because of Meta's earnings. I mean, it is a possibility, but in order for this to reverse, I mean, we have to get above 160, and we're pretty far from that now. We have to get it back above 160. I don't know if that's going to happen. I really doubt that's going to happen. I think it's going to try to bounce in the morning, maybe try to touch 158. But from this point on, it just does not look good. It looks like it's eventually just going to come down to fill this gap over the next few weeks, maybe within a week from now, but it's basically coming. AMC in the middle, likely going to remain more bearish as it's slowing down on the MACD. Coinbase tried to bounce and ended up failing again. I could see this thing trying to continue since it has some relative strength. It might try to push up to about getting closer to the higher to mid 50s. But until then, it might project off like 55 to 60. And if it does reject, I do expect more downside to come anyways. There's no clear sign of a balance, as I mentioned before. Possible divergence hasn't fully developed yet, but it is important to note. On the dollar index, this is just trading sideways, no real confirmation of either direction. And finally, for Neo right now on the daily is it's continuing to drop, so not looking the best. It could try to bounce off 7.6 just a little bit with the market into open, but if it breaks below 7.6 to 7.5, it's likely going to come down even harder. Microsoft, it actually reached my target of 300, but like I said, guys, it's slowing down now. I mean, it pumped super hard, scapping up so hard. This tends to not be the most sustainable of moves. So even if it does try to hold above 300 temporarily, it doesn't look like it's going to last too long if the market turns more bearish over the next few weeks. It's going to likely come back down to fill that gap over the next couple of weeks. QQQ is looking a little weaker too. It's only up about 0.61% overall, so it's not extremely green, it's not extremely red either. And what's very important about it is we are actually going to see an attempted bounce tomorrow thanks to Meta. So it might try to actually retest 314, maybe try to fill the gap. I mean, it's a possibility. But even if it does do that, if 315 does come, I'm not really counting on too much to happen from there. It's likely going to reject and end up just continuing to downtrend. There's this gap down below, so I do think the QQQ is going to go for the gap fill down to 308, either by the end of this week or next week. It's also going to depend on Amazon's earnings for Thursday, but that's what I do eventually see happening. For the VIX, it's now starting to push up. There is a gap, I believe. There is a gap below, I think, on the 1 hour time frame. Let me just double check it. So if the VIX comes down to fill this gap, that once again could signal another push up for the stock market, but so far it's holding up nicely, respecting an uptrend and breaking out. So it's looking a lot stronger. Amazon is also up about 2.35%. In the after hours, it's up 1.47%. And if anything, if it does end up dropping, there is this gap below. So it could end up coming down to fill this gap before earnings. We do actually have a tendency of seeing stocks like Microsoft and also like Meta today. They did actually drop before earnings, so we might see Amazon do that tomorrow. So be on the lookout for the support at the 104 area. If that fails, 103 flat could come to fill the gap. And then if it bounces, it is what it is. Nvda, it's actually up in the after hours. It was actually up 2.72% overall. If it ends up failing below 266, it's most likely going to come all the way down to 264 to fill the gap. If it tries to bounce temporarily, I did actually mention this yesterday, it could try to bounce. That is what happens in the video. But now it's looking kind of weak and it's actually failing to continue to hold. So I'm seeing potential for it to come down to fill this gap, maybe 264 very, very soon. It might bounce in the morning thanks to Meta, then just continue to fall. Aapl needs to get above 165 for it to actually remain strong. We're going to be waiting for earnings though, so I don't expect Aapl to crash or anything like that yet. I think it's just going to trade sideways for the time being, maybe downtrend a little bit. For Meta, it's up 11% in the after hours because it did beat on EPS and revenue. Some things like net income are not that great, but other things were fine. We'll see what this thing does. It's likely going to cool off a little bit. We want to see this thing base first, and then it's going to continue moving forward. And then for the 10-year Treasury yield, this thing's up 1.06%, once again continuing to push. If it fills this gap, that's going to be bearish for the stock market. So what I see for the market, yes, we could try to bounce, sure, if we do actually get a break on the falling wedge on SPY. But I'm not counting on the bounce to last, guys. I think in the next few weeks, the market has more downside to come, and we should be back into 390s. Unfortunately for SPY, that's what I'm seeing. It's also going to depend on Apple's earnings, of course, and the FOMC meeting and other factors like that, and not to mention CPI in just about a week and a half from now. But like I said before, I mean, the charts are looking like they're kind of exhausted from all the upside we saw from the past few weeks. A little bit of downside is going to be fine. All right, guys. Well, thank you all for listening. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected. And I'll see you guys in the next one. The market to the moon as the long term is still incredibly bright. And peace out.